the Alisa K Book Club, and we're so excited to reveal and talk about the book that we did for this month, which is Identity by Stedman. And we will be revealing the new book for this upcoming month. And be exciting since some people might have a little extra time to quiet down for the holidays. Maybe not. I don't know. My holidays get quiet. I don't know about you guys. Let's just start right into it. Did you guys like this book?
I did, yes.
You did, yes.
Yes.
You say that. I did, yes.
It took me a while. I had to read about 3 chapters before I went back and answered questions.
Okay.
Because I thought, well, I don't know. You know, my life is so unknown right now. How do I answer these questions? And then you told me I was in resistance, and I thought about that, and I was like,
Wait, I said you were in resistance?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like me at all.
Not at all, not you. And so I thought about that, and then I was like, it doesn't matter how I answer these. They're my answers from my life. It's not right or wrong. So then it was easier to answer.
Nice. Nice adjustment. Cool. Well, you're awfully smiley this evening. I'm glad you guys are here. For those of you who aren't here, who are tuning in with us, you're missing out. It's a lot of fun. Welcome back, Michelle. Did you like the book?
I didn't read the book.
That's okay. Because guess what? You don't have to read the book. I mean, of course, we want you to want to read the book, but you don't have to. You can come and just have conversation. That's the beautiful thing about this book club. I think that you can get a lot from just engaging in the conversation. But can I ask you why you didn't read the book? I mean, were you...
Time has just... That's what I was telling her. I didn't even realize it was the 19th. It was like, oh my God. So I was just going to go.
Okay.
I'm still working on Return. Long.
Okay.
That was a big book.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, but I wanted to come here.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You too.
I loved this book. I thought it was awesome. First of all, I like Stedman. I mean, he's a solid man. And what can I say? I like solid men.
Yes.
But I think he has a lot to impart with, a lot to teach. And what I also like is you can be a solid man and be vulnerable at the same time. And I think that I felt through this book that he showed a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes, sharing his story about where he came from and what he had to deal with, and then realize, wait a minute, I'm choosing that attitude.
Wow. So are you saying the choice?
Yes.
I know, it is. I'm laughing at myself right now because there's a part in this book that says, in the questions, as you might have, and the questions are great, Michelle. You're going to want to get this because you're going to want to go back and do these questions. But it talks about ask some of the people who are closest to you, basically what they think about you. And my best friend was so kind today to actually tell me that, let me see if I get it right in her words, that nothing that I was saying was accurate. Something like that. Was that it? Am I close, T?
You were close, yeah.
T's behind her running the camera today, so
You were close.
Yeah. So I said, well, was my writing this morning accurate? She said, well, it was very soft and gentle. And what else did you say?
In a feminine flow.
In a feminine flow. Well, I thought that's probably good since I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably good to be in a feminine flow once in a while. But the funny thing is that she was totally accurate. I was just all over the road today. And so, you know, when I reflected on that after she said that, and I laughed inside, and I thought, well, the people that love you most will tell you when you're off. And I was off. So who knows what this book club will be like tonight. It could be totally off. So, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about Identity by Stedman. And it's the passport to your success, which is what he's talking about in this book. And I thought that was really catchy because being that I just recently used my passport for the first time to go out of the country, I kept reflecting on, well, let me think about what a passport shows. And it shows where have you been. And I thought, so you have to know where you've been to know where you're going, right? So if you look through your passport and all the times it's stamped, you can kind of go, well, I've been here. Do I want to go back here? Did I like it here? What is it about this that I liked? And where do I want to go next? Where do I want to broaden my horizons to and stretch myself? And for me, traveling is a stretch. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's a stretch because it's taken me so long to do it. And I've been conditioned in my ways of just staying. Well, honestly, just staying in one place and working a lot. I've never allowed myself the time to explore traveling. And for me, that's been a real journey that I want to learn and I want to explore. So I kind of related that back to the book as I was reading it, thinking, what kind of journey do I want to have? Where do I want to go next? What do I want to do? Well, first I want to get really solid with who I am. And so this brought it back to that. And I want to kind of reference back to a lot of things in the book that I marked on because I thought it was really profound in the sense that it connected me to me. It really solidified that, yeah, I know who I am. I know what my identity is. I may stumble on things that I'm hung up on a little bit, but I know who I am. And so one of the first things that it says is, he writes, I've been a student of personal growth, leadership, success for more than 40 years. I believe that having a learner's mindset is very important to the process. Well, what that tells me is that he's open as a student. And I think that's extremely important for a leader to be a great student. And oftentimes, leaders don't get to be a student. They're so busy leading. And I know for me personally, last year I took about 3 months that I crammed into my schedule to actually be a student because I just really felt the need to just sit there and absorb knowledge. And I don't know how you all feel when you come into the studio, but do you like being a student and learning in there?
Yes.
I mean, it's exciting, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah, it's exciting to learn new things, and I think that's what's great about book club is we can sit here and we can have these conversations, and we can explore other people's experiences, and sometimes the most profound lessons come from that, other people's experiences. And so what Stedman goes on to do is he leads the book through stories. And again, another thing that resonated with me because I'm a storyteller. I like to tell stories. So I love that he respected people by not using their names and changing the names of various locations. And I also thought it was creative, too, some of the locations he used names for. I thought it was kind of fun. So, again, very attractive to me because I felt like he had fun doing this. I got a sense that he enjoyed writing this book. And why do something if you don't enjoy it? I mean, how many times have any of us done something feeling like we had to really bust it out and really didn't have pleasure in doing it? Anybody in here? Guys? Yeah. T, you ever feel that experience?
Yes, daily.
So why do you think that is, that we choose that?
That we choose that? For me, I choose that, but it's for a higher purpose. So I might not always like doing something, but I have to get past that within my mind and know that whatever that might be is for serving a higher purpose. So I don't feel like I need to necessarily love everything that I do because what I don't love is temporary.
Oh, okay. Short-term sacrifice for long-term gain is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Got it. Cool. I get that. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. It says you must change yourself first if you want to change the world. Yeah, so I really get that because so many of the women that play in the studio, as they're healing themselves, they want to give that back to other people. And I know, Lisa, you can relate to that. And for us to be effective with doing that, I think that the best school is the school of experience. And so I know we've talked about this, about different degrees and different titles on the wall. And I believe that that comes from a conditioning that we were brought up with, that unless we have those titles, that we're not good enough to do what is organic, intuitive, and out of a space of love and true caring. And so Stedman goes on to talk a little bit about that in the book of being labeled or put into a box.
Right.
And so, again, I felt like I could really connect with him on that because I felt that way a lot growing up. And so that was one of the things. Lisa, share with me what stood out to you on that.
Well, the writing where he had you go through and write down what labels other people put on you, and then what labels you accepted for yourself, and then what labels you have for you, and that was a really powerful writing tool for me, because even though I never had an agent, I did stuff that people said I would never do, just because I knew I could. It's the German-Irish thing, I don't know.
I love that. When I used to be a sales director with Mary Kay, Mary Kay had a saying, and she had this little bee pin that she would hand out, and I love the bumblebee, and the story behind the bumblebee was aerodynamically it wasn't supposed to be able to fly because its body was too heavy for its wings. However, it did because it didn't know any different.
Right.
And so I love that. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah. It was just like, it's kind of like you have to throw so much stuff against the wall. I'm substituting stuff for another word. And something will eventually stick, and people will get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked about that many of times with a lot of times I've experienced people that I've worked with in business and also people that I've coached that they want to create an infrastructure for their life. And they feel that when I'm this organized, then I can do it. When I have this in place, then I can do it. And my rule has always been, let's just throw it all against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Because if your intention is pure, if this is out of love and what you really want to do, it's going to come together. And you're not going to do everything perfectly. You're going to stumble over things, and that's how we learn.
Right.
How do children learn to walk? They trip, they stumble, they get up and do it again. And what do? As adults, we sit back and we go, oh, isn't that cute? Look, oh my gosh, they're walking. We don't notice the times they fall. They're just walking, and we're so excited about it. But for us, as adults, when we trip and stumble and fall, we're in complete judgment and criticism over everything that we did wrong, completely overlooking all that we did that was positive.
Right. And, the positive results that you learn from the negative stumbling, or however you want to put that, the brain's not working. Because if you don't make mistakes, you can't grow.
So are you kind of saying fail forward?
Yes.
Right on. So let me ask you, what are the labels? Give me a couple labels that you put on yourself.
Stupid. Ugly, fat. Not good enough.
So Michelle, you kind of had a look like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. So let me ask you, what kind of labels, Michelle, did you put on yourself?
Same. I was like, and I was ready to do this.
So you felt the same way, so that really connects.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that a lot of the impact that other people can have on us, we carry over into our lives. And I was in a conversation last night where I was sharing that experience at 5 years old when I was in kindergarten and everybody was learning to read. And ironically, I'm sitting here doing the Alisa K book club, which might have a little bit to do why I'm not pushing people to actually have to read the book to this story now that I'm saying this out loud. But I would sick every year, and I had about 2 weeks at a time, and that's a long time, in school when you're learning at a rapid pace like that. And so they were learning to read, and we came back after I'd been sick, and we walk in, and I'm holding my mother's hand, and the teacher looks at me, and she looks down at me, and she was very stern with her voice, and she said, "We're going to demote her to the lower reading class because she can't read." And my mother was irate with the way her tone was, and I remember freezing in my tracks at that moment, looking. I could tell you the color of her dress. I could tell you the color of her pantyhose. I could tell you what her shoes looked like. They were navy blue with scuffs all over them. They were Mary Jane's. I could tell you everything. I knew the feeling of that moment. I can still feel it telling the story. And I remember at that moment, what I told myself was I wasn't smart enough. I was stupid. And I carried that into my life, into my 30s. So it wasn't until, maybe 4 years ago where I've let go of that completely. But because of that, it held me back in school. It didn't certainly help the fact that I was dyslexic. And I was terrified to read books because of it. And so I labeled myself. So I can relate to that. I labeled myself for years. And how did that affect me? Well, I thought, first of all, I wouldn't be able to read a script for any job I went on because I couldn't read fast enough. I wouldn't be able to write a book. I wouldn't be able to accelerate in school. Therefore, I gave up on school. So it affected my whole life. It was a label that somebody put on me, very clearly. But more than anything, I kept it on me. And yes, I was a child at the time. And I knew as a child it didn't feel right as that was happening. I knew that. But, at 5 years old, we turn to adults and we believe everything that comes out of their mouth. Everything. And so he goes on to say in the book that we are conditioned basically to follow a criteria. And this is going to really be empowering to you, Michelle, as a mom, because your daughter is at that age of being 7 and very impressionable, and I think there's so much that happens at that age. But in our schools, we basically are raised to follow rules and kind of become worker bees. We're hindered on our creativity. There is no expression of becoming an entrepreneur, of exploring any possible ideas. And I know for me, when I started in preschool, I started in a Montessori school, and it was a very different approach to the traditional school system. And I know all of us are around a similar age in there. But we all fell into that category where they started to change how they taught reading from phonics to different styles of reading. And I don't know if you remember, Michelle, you're looking at me like you're confused with this, but I clearly remember them going back and forth between how they were going to teach reading. And I remember thinking, I was more confused than ever. And yeah, really challenging. Did not help the label that I was now placed in a box.
Yeah.
And so I actually believe in my heart that dyslexic people are geniuses. I think that God has blessed them with a little extra something.
We think outside of the box.
Well, isn't that funny?
The box backwards.
No, backwards. That's awesome. I love it.
So I just want to let you know that we have Karen on and Billy.
Oh, nice. So if any of you want to jump on to ask any questions or participate, you can go to the Alisa K fan page. Then that is facebook.com/The Alisa K Show. And just type in your comments or anything you want to do, and you guys can interact with us from at home. If you're just tuning in, we're reading Identity by Stedman Graham, Your Passport to Success. Lisa, do you feel that you gained something from this book to propel you forward in succeeding either personally or professionally?
Yes.
What would that be?
It helped me to drop those labels or stereotypes. It helped me to focus on what I have accomplished in my life. And it freed me up to just admit what I really want to do. You know, instead of being like, okay, well, I messed up the entertainment thing, so now I must go be this. Because entertainment was never really a career, it's just a hobby. That's how my family looks at it. And I'm not saying I'm going to go back into entertainment, but just that type of environment where it's creative and you're creatively feeding off of each other, and it's just that energy that's amazing when it's right and there's no abuse. I'd like to get back to that.
So it's interesting because Stedman talks in the book about being a basketball player, and he talks about different things he was interested in, and of course being labeled as a tall black man. So of course he was going to be a basketball player, you know. It's a typical stereotype. Every time you see a tall black man, they must be a basketball player. Of course, then there's the label that comes with being an athlete that perhaps they're not really intelligent because all they knew how to do was their sports, which is completely untrue.
Right.
And in fact, I never knew that Stedman was a basketball player. I never thought, wow, he's a tall black man. He must have played basketball in high school or college. All I saw was a man who carried himself with great poise and had something to teach and was willing to impart with that. And of course he goes on to talk about, which if you don't all know, I mean you should know, that he got labeled as Oprah Winfrey's boyfriend. And of course Oprah has been labeled for being a lesbian and everything else under the sun, and for being fat and being skinny and being this and being that, you know. But then there was Stedman, who was kind of quiet, you know, off in the shadows there. And he talks about his journey with Oprah and how, you know, she had all the odds against her growing up. And she has completely beat all of that. And what I love about this is he explains how it doesn't matter where you came from. Rich, black, white, poor, gay, straight. Doesn't matter. What matters is what you decide to do, like the bumblebee.
Yep.
You know, that's what matters. So he says identity can change, evolve, and transform. It's up to you to fully grasp your identity and use it to your advantage to succeed. So let me ask you, what parts of your identity have you utilized in a positive way to move you forward? T, do you want to share about that?
At the beginning of the book, I actually went through and I did the questions. I handwrote them out. And part of when he was talking about labels, I went down the positive side, and I listed some of my labels as strong, powerful, honest, love, deep, and sincere. So those, for me, are the ones that enhance my purpose, enhance what I'm doing today, enhance everything about my journey right now. So those are the labels that make me me, that I feel are the core of how I use those, because I am strong, I am powerful, and I can step into that and guide somebody and say, you know, if you're doing something with this, or if you're struggling in your life, or, you know, whatever that is, it doesn't matter. Here's what I see and here's why. So they can hear it however they hear it, but it's just me being true and honest and speaking my truth for me.
I would agree, and I'd like to add something to that. One thing that T does that is so powerful, and I've always done this in raising my children, is what she just said. She gives an explanation as to why somebody should see it a certain way, possibly believe it, or go about exploring it. She gives a why. Instead of just saying, I think you should do this, and leaving it at that. Because oftentimes people can't see what we see in them. They've created those limiting beliefs, that identity, and they don't see it. So that is a huge strength of yours, and it is very trusting, and it's very safe feeling. And anybody who's been in the pleasure of experiencing tea, I think would agree. Wouldn't you all agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
What have you used, Michelle, in your identity to help you succeed forward?
Well, I'm very friendly. I like to make people feel comfortable. I'm training somebody right now, and I see in her where she's really hard on herself sometimes, and I see where I was really hard on myself like that too.
Yeah.
So for me, it was kind of refreshing to see that that's changed in me. That I'm not like, with the bat, beating myself up with all those labels. So I'm trying to be more gentle with myself, really. And I don't know. I was real frustrated earlier today because there's such a wave of emotions with the holidays, and we've got a new CFO who's going this. We're doing all these meetings, and we went years with nothing. So everything's changed, and he really focuses on education. And the three main people in our department do not have degrees, but there's a girl that has a degree, and she doesn't put forth as much effort, but he talks about her degree a lot. So when you said that earlier, I was like, oh, get this book, because I have to read about that, because I go through that not feeling good enough because I dropped out of art school and I didn't do it, and sometimes that's what holds me back from finishing work I'm doing for myself just for pleasure.
I get that. I get that.
You know that about
it's an
me.
incomplete for you, and I completely understand the incomplete. Let me say that. I've experienced that in my life. However, let me say that it is a part of our life experiences, and if we can utilize that and learn from that and allow it to move us forward, then maybe it really isn't an incomplete. Maybe it just looks differently than what we expected it to look like. And I think sometimes the people that don't have the degrees on the wall work a little bit harder to really understand and make sure that they're giving it their all, because it's really important to them. Not that it's not important to the people who have degrees as well, but I think that sometimes maybe we're trying to prove something to ourselves that we still matter and we still really care, with that. So I get that. Yeah, tell me.
So Billy has a comment. He says, identity is fluid, a creation and a powerful place to leverage big change.
Awesome, Billy. I like that. Thanks for chiming in. That's cool. Did Billy read the book? Did he say?
I do not know if Billy read the book.
Billy, did you read the book?
Billy, did you read the book?
We'd like to know. Yeah.
Karen also posted. She said, yes, I love this. Even though I'm not there, I love to hear about what this book brought to everyone.
Nice. I think it's powerful, and I think the people that are watching, get people to join in and get online and watch this, because the conversations are powerful. And sometimes maybe you'll get a little bit more about the book that'll, again, intrigue you to pick it up later. And maybe this isn't the right time for you to read it. It doesn't mean don't read it. So we want to make sure we point that out. I love this. So many things that I know you got in this book that we live every day with this. But it was like he was speaking to us, right? He says, you can also think of your identity as your personal brand. And that one just really hit home with me, because probably about 6 years ago, I started realizing that I was my personal brand. And I didn't realize that, even though I had a skincare and makeup line that had my name on it, and I had been promoting myself all these years in a certain way, I didn't realize that I was the brand. And so identity, standing in your personal brand. What is it that you want to do with your life? And one of the things that writers will do, and I've been criticized for this before, and I get that, and criticism to me is not negative. A lot of times it's an opportunity for me to teach, and a lot of times it's also an opportunity for me to learn. So as I write every day, you'll notice that I sign my name at the end of it. Well, that's identifying with my work. That's putting my seal of approval on, saying I'm proud of what I've done. And my writing, obviously, is a representation of my identity. It is exposing myself. It is being real, raw, vulnerable. And it's me saying at the end, I'm really proud that I do that. So when he wrote that, I loved that. He talks about identity includes the willingness to reach out and help others. That's something about which I can feel a healthy pride. Totally. There's nothing better, right, T, than reaching out and helping somebody.
It's so fulfilling. It's something that money can't buy. It's beyond, so far beyond.
It is, and Marianne Williamson talked about this in her book, Return to Love. She talked about traveling for 2 years, teaching Course in Miracles, never receiving any compensation monetarily for it. And it is something that money can't buy, but when your heart is in a good place, when the intention is there, the money comes. The money always comes when you set the intention for that, because it's pure, it's real, it's love. And so I dug that. Becoming clear about who you want and your authentic identity. What does that mean to you guys, authentic identity? Can somebody share with me?
Who your love self is, not your fear self. You know, that if you are operating from love, that's authentic.
Right on. Yes. Agreed. What would you say, Michelle? You like that?
Your authentic self.
Yeah.
Should be love.
Yeah. So, what a concept with that being your identity. Your authentic self, being pure of love, your intention.
Is that a question?
No.
Okay.
It's more of a statement. It's really saying what a concept.
Right, okay.
You know?
Couldn't hear.
So we make it complicated, is what I'm saying. We
Right,
make
yeah.
it really complicated. And, you know, so somebody can pick up this book and they can look at this man on the cover and he